Welcome back to the channel. Grab your drink because we're diving into Seeking Sister Wife Season 6, Episode 7, titled Have to Choose Between My Two Wives. This episode had everything: prenups gone wrong, jealousy meltdowns, control issues, and people who are way too calm while their relationships are clearly on fire. So let's get into it. But before we do, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more content like this, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss next week's chaos, because you know there's going to be more. So let's kick it off with Garrick and Danielle, because these two, wow. Lorena's been in the US for a while now, and the pressure is on. Danielle's trying to be chill, but you can tell she's hanging on by a thread here. So we have a lot of prenup issues arise here because Garrick decided to do everything online, and then at the end realizes he needs to translate in Portuguese for Lorena in order for her to understand the prenup and make it official, because otherwise it's null and void. And you would think they would have researched this sooner, even before Lorena arrived, knowing what their plan was ultimately. They reach out to lawyers, and ultimately, a lot of them are saying because they cannot translate to Portuguese, they can't really take on the case. And it feels like Garrick is shocked here. Like, he genuinely seems confused that translation might be an issue. And what's crazy to me is it's a legal document, and at the end of the day, she's signing it too. So who knows what she would be signing at that point. So of course that would make sense that she would need to understand everything that she's signing. And she just seems so confused by it all, almost like no one really explained to her that reason why maybe she's signing a prenup. And it feels like Danielle kind of takes over here. She's calling the lawyer. She's trying to figure it out. And we know Danielle really wants this prenup. Obviously, everything that happened with Roberta, her taking money from them and then up and leaving. Anything is possible. Not to say that Lorena isn't trustworthy, but again, Danielle is not legally married to Garrick anymore because, again, they're bringing in a third person. And because she is coming in on a visa, this is its protocol within 90 days. So because of that, if anything happened and she didn't sign a prenup and they separated, and then Danielle, her family, even the business, which is Danielle's brother's business, is compromised here. So there's a lot at stake. And then, of course, Danielle has 3 kids with Garrick. So it just raises so many questions of the why behind the marriage and why they're even doing this and continuing to try to do this. It does feel so rushed. I also feel like I believe there was about 9 months in between when she actually came. You would think that there would be at some point a conversation of exactly the process that they need, what is going to transpire, that Lorena is fully aware of what's going to transpire. And it feels like she's coming deer in headlights, really just confused of exactly what's happening and just going with the flow here, which kudos for her to go with the flow. But I also feel really bad that it seems like she doesn't know enough about what she's signing up for with this family. And again, it's hard to get a gauge on emotion here because Lorena is translating a lot of what she's feeling. She just looks so confused. And again, this relationship is so confusing overall, just because how would you want to just communicate through a phone? And we know that Lorena is taking English classes, which kind of had me raising my eyebrows, because why isn't Garrick and Danielle learning Portuguese? And it is very confusing. While they know here and there words, I still feel like it should go both ways. If you are taking on a wife, not just anybody, but you're bringing someone in long term, it would make the most sense to want to adapt and learn their language as well. Okay, so let's switch gears to Reese and Billie Jean. Every time these two talk about adding a sister wife, it sounds less like a love story and more like a Craigslist ad, if they still have those around. Billie Jean keeps saying she wants help with the house and the kids, like she's interviewing for a nanny, and then they want to grow this big community, which I guess it means another sister wife. Maybe it means like 10 additional sister wives eventually. Who knows if they can even get one at this point. But, and then growing, obviously, their family. We know that Billie Jean can't have her own child, so she got an egg donor, and then she struggled during that pregnancy. She did have twins, but they want to continue to grow. And I'm not sure that's the best reason, although they say it's not, but the best reason to add a sister wife just to have more babies into the mix. And they go visit their egg donors, their family friends, and they offer to Reese and Billie Jean another option, which is for them to be a surrogate for her with their eggs because, again, they have about 5 or so embryos now and they want to continue to grow their family. So they kind of question that and say, wait, that's actually a good idea. Let me think about it. But again, it goes back to the idea of they say in the car they want a sister wife for more than just babies, but I'm starting to question that a little bit here of, is that really the truth? Because now they actually are saying, well, wait a minute, this is an option too. So, yes, community, yes, you want to all grow up with kids together, but I still feel like it's odd here of the why behind it. It kind of goes back to what the other sister wives want it for, which is help around the house, which is not the best reason. And I feel like Reese is kind of along for the ride here. He nods, he agrees, but we know that Billie Jean is running the show here. It was her idea to really go down this path with a sister wife. And while I think it's good that it's her idea because I think that's the hardest sell right there, but I also feel like he's just trying to keep up with what she wants. And I'm not sure exactly he 100% wants it. I actually think he felt like there was an out here with the surrogate idea and that maybe there isn't a need for another sister wife. Okay, so now let's move on to Danny and Yesel. So what happens here is interesting. So Yesel's gone for work. Danny is running around with the kids and she basically admits that she hasn't really connected with Jackie, although Yesel and Jackie have been talking, but Danny, even though Jackie has reached out, Danny's uninterested in chatting with her. And it's been about a month, which I find that interesting already that it's been a month and she hasn't connected, but she's trying to make it work. It's almost like she's trying to, when Yesel's around, show, yes, I'm into this, but then when he's gone, she's almost sabotaging it a bit. And so on camera, she basically says, I need to connect with Jackie. So we're going to go out to dinner and I'm going to bring up the boundaries that I have, basically that she can't have a baby with Yesel and good luck with that. And so I found this conversation super interesting. So they get to dinner and I actually think Jackie is a really good person here. She is really flexible as far as working on their time. And so I know she knew that Danny was hesitant about everything, but they've had conversations. So in my last recap, I shared that when Jackie met her family and friends, it was interesting why they did that without talking to Jackie first about the boundaries, because why do all that first? Why have these connections and go this far and then not have that conversation that could ultimately change Jackie's reason to continue dating them? So interestingly enough, I thought at first, could it be the timeline was out of order with filming and they showcased that first? And maybe this conversation happened first and then we're seeing the friends and family, but that's not the case according to Jackie and what we see in her response here. So Danny says she's fine with another wife joining the family, but when it comes to Yesel having kids with anyone else, especially if it was a girl, because again, she has 2 boys, she doesn't want to go through pregnancy again. She would feel like she couldn't have provided that to Yesel herself. And it's a boundary that she has set. She made it clear to Jackie that the only workaround here is a donor, which I still find just in Jackie's mind, right? And she says this is, that's not really the way I want to go about that. That doesn't really feel connected to the partner I'm with. And we know Jackie does want more kids. She made that very clear from the start. So Jackie has the right response here. She's like, why didn't you tell me this sooner? And, you know, these are things that I would have liked to know. And obviously, this changes everything for me because, again, it just doesn't make sense. And she calls Danny selfish. And I agree. I think that it really makes sense. I think she was very respectful here. But Jackie could have easily said, this just is not for you. You should not be moving forward with this because you're almost sabotaging it from the start here, where Yesel might maybe wanted this more than you. And then you're just trying to you're pretending like you want this, but then you're finding reasons why it's not going to happen. And so what a waste of Jackie's time at this point. So Jackie pretty much says, good luck with everything and leaves. She's basically done with this relationship. She doesn't want to move forward. And it just is interesting how this happens and how it's so abrupt because Danny's like, understandable, walks her out. That's it. I don't know if they had off camera conversation after or before this, but what about Yesel? Like, I feel like that breakup should have happened between them. And so we know in the next episode, we see Danny and Yesel chat about this. So we'll see how Yesel feels. But I actually think that he should have been part of this conversation, even though it was Danny's rule. Again, it's setting expectation that Danny is in charge here and not Yesel. And so anyone else coming in, I think Jackie was pretty laid back. And I also feel like there's going to be tension with Yesel and Danny moving forward, just because maybe it's something where now it's going to create issues in their relationship because this didn't work out. So we'll see what happens with them, with those two. And then we get to the Davis family, Nick, April, Jennifer, and the new addition, Teresa. So we know that Teresa's been struggling here with confidence. Teresa's starting to realize that being the newbie isn't exactly the fairy tales she thought. She continues to open up about feeling insecure, and the rest of them continue to tell her that there is nothing to worry about. They reassure her, and I just think this is deeper, and they admit this, right? Nick says, I don't know if this is going to be something we can do long term, because we know that she's in this fully, which is awesome, but we can't change the way she feels. And if she's not confident, and I think Nick really is attracted to that type, right? Someone that's very confident in themselves, and she can't get out of her own head. Now, there's obviously past traumas that have happened to Teresa that she admits that basically has led her to this point. So I feel like they need to be a little sensitive to that. And they basically say, like, I don't think changing your last name, at least in interview, they say this is the best idea, because that's not going to change your inner self, like deeper thoughts of how you feel about yourself. So understandable. And we know Teresa changing her last name to her is about feeling like she's not left out and she'll feel like a true wife. And honestly, it's hard to watch because she's putting in the effort. She's showing vulnerability. She's trying to make it work. But I don't think that's going to change how she's feeling in the group, how things are going to get better. And so they see that, right? They're seeing that side and they want to accept her and they want this to work. But I almost feel like at this point it's forced and she's almost pushing them further away. And so while I think she's fully in this, it's hard to accept the way that I think Nick truly feels. So I'm not sure long term how this is going to play out. Okay, so then we circle back to Garrick and Danielle again, because of course we do. They always end the episode with something dramatic. And Danielle crying again, Lorena confused again. Garrick quoting scripture like it's going to fix everything. He says he has to choose between his wives because basically he has to either go ahead, marry Lorena, do either a postnup or not a prenup at all, risk her getting deported if in fact they don't go forward with marriage because the prenup is not ready. And we know Danielle is just concerned. At least she's on the same page length as everybody else that's watching of just, you have to do this prenup, because again, I'm glad that she's not just thinking about herself, but she's also thinking about her family as well. And what's interesting and something I caught here was Lorena basically asked Danielle, so you're not comfortable? And she's like, no, I'm not comfortable, basically moving forward with Lorena marrying Garrick without the prenup. And she looks a little confused here. So I question what they told her, what she knows about the past, Roberta, and just everything in general, because it would clear up a lot of these questions of why they want this so much and what has happened to them. Also, I feel like you go deep when you're marrying someone. Is she asking the right questions? Does she know enough about their history, what they've been through on the show in general? And so it does raise a lot of questions of how much she's asking. And it really raises the question of how much she actually knows about Garrick and Danielle and the dynamic here. So I don't love that. I feel like I want her to be speaking up for herself now and asking questions and pushing back. She's part of the family. They're making that very clear. It just feels very much like Danielle and Garrick run the show and Lorena's just there for the ride. And that's just how it feels. Like, we know Garrick wants this. Danielle's accepting because she wants to be with Garrick no matter what. And then Lorena's just kind of like, what am I to all of you at this point? And so it's almost like she's just being thrown around like a rag doll sometimes, of just go with the flow and do whatever we say. So I don't love that. So I'm hoping she does push back a little bit with vocalizing it more. This episode was definitely peak seeking sister wife chaos. Prenups gone sideways, wives setting boundaries that sound more like ultimatums, and a whole lot of people realizing that plural marriage might sound spiritual, but feeling exhausting. So Danielle's still holding on to a man who can't plan ahead. Billie Jean's looking for an assistant more than a sister wife. Danny's pretending to be open-minded while setting impossible rules. And Teresa is starting to see the cracks in the Davis family picture. At this point, the only thing keeping everyone together is denial. But hey, that's why we all watch it, right? So the awkward dinners, the misplaced confidence, the God told me so speeches. Seeking Sister Wife continues to be the most unintentionally funny show on TLC. All right, guys, that's it for this week's recap. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think is the biggest red flag this episode? And do you think any of these relationships will actually survive the season? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss another breakdown like this, because there's more episodes to recap. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.